Good morning. Good morning. Yay. Okay. So we're going to do something a little bit different. We're going to hear the gospel reading again in a little bit different way. I need 7 folks that are willing to be readers. And just raise your hands, and I'm going to start from the back and walk up. I will start the reading, and I will end the reading. You'll see it on here. And when it's your turn, before you start speaking, raise your hand, because Kathleen has the handheld mics. We want to make sure that our friends on the live stream and on the recording can hear what we're doing, since we're utilizing a lot of different voices. So I'm going to start from the back and work my way up. And if you have any questions, it should be easy. I'm going to start all the way back. You are reader number 1. Jeanette, you are reader number 2. Adults, kids, nobody? Here. Oh, wait, I've lost track. So 1, 2, 3, 4. And so you're 5. And 6. You're reader number 6. And you're reader number 7. Okay, so we're starting from the back.
And please raise your hand before it's your turn.
Raise your hand before you read it, and I'll start us off. Everybody take a big breath. Now, about 8 days after the teachings about the cost of discipleship, Jesus took with him Peter and John and James and went up on the mountain to pray.
And while he was praying, the appearance of his face changed, and his clothing lit up white like lightning.
And suddenly they saw 2 men, Moses and Elijah, speaking to Jesus. They appeared in glory and were speaking of his exodus, which he was about to complete in Jerusalem.
Now Peter and those with him were weighed down with sleep. But since they were awake, they saw his glory and the 2 men with him.
And just as they were departing from him, Peter said to Jesus, "Master, it is good for us to be here. So let us make 3 tent tabernacles, one for you, one for Moses, and one for Elijah," not knowing what he said.
While he was saying this, a cloud came and overshadowed them, and they were terrified as they entered the cloud.
Then a voice came from the cloud that said, "This is my son, the chosen one. Listen to him."
And while the voice was still speaking, Jesus was found alone.
And they kept silent and told no one in those days anything they had seen. So how did that feel? Did it feel good to hear the reading in different voices? Was it a little bit unsettling? It's a very different way to do the gospel reading. It's a change. It's something that's different. And sometimes changing something up feels good. Sometimes it feels kind of weird. Sometimes it doesn't feel good at all, and you hope it never happens again. Right? There's a whole range of responses to change. But one of the main thing I'm going to be talking about in today's sermon is change and just reflecting on that. But before I start, you'll also notice that there were pipe cleaners that were being handed out. If you didn't happen to get any and you want some, Helen has them in the back. You can get some. Or if you need more, you can get more. And so all I'm inviting you to do is, while you're listening to me, or throughout the service, if it's something that appeals to you, play with your pipe cleaner. something with it. It doesn't really matter what you create. For some people, it is easier to listen to what is being said when they're doing something with their hands. You can create something like this, anything you want. And if you don't like what you create, guess what? You can take it apart and you can do it over. This is about process. It is not about having a beautiful thing. You can make all kinds of things that you can wear, whatever you want. And this is just another way to do things in a little bit different way than what we might be used to. So in today's gospel story, Jesus suddenly changes from the person his disciples, Peter, James, and John, have been following into someone who shines so brightly that they hardly recognize him. Even more surprising and perhaps confusing is the appearance of Moses and Elijah, both long gone, in deep conversation with Jesus. But along with their surprise and confusion, the disciples also probably realize that what they're witnessing is the very presence of God, reminding them that Jesus is more than just a prophet or a teacher. Jesus is the most beloved Son of God, whom God commands the disciples and us to listen to. This encounter probably isn't what the disciples expected when they agreed to go on a hike with Jesus. The disciples find themselves in a thin place where God is closer to them than they could have ever imagined. Peter wants to hold on to this incredible moment, to stay in the rarefied air of the mountain, near his transfigured spiritual leader and his ancestors. So Peter quickly comes up with a plan to make the moment last. Let's stay here, Peter says, with an emphasis on here. We can build our own compound right here on the mountain with separate living quarters for you and for Moses and for Elijah. We won't ever have to leave. To Peter, this plan makes sense. It's a way to protect Jesus from those who want to harm him. And it'll also distance all of them from the complicated and exhausting work of interacting with the people that Jesus has come to serve. Master, it is good for us to be here, right here, where it's safe and secure, not down there among the corrupt politicians and the false religious zealots. Here, where things are less complicated, where love and justice and mercy are unconditional. Here, where we can keep an eye on what's happening from above without being entangled in the mess below. Here is where the disciples want to stay. They want to hold on to this moment in the divine face of Jesus. Now, that desire to hold on and stay put when something is good is a very human response. It's the urge that arises in special moments that we want to last, even though we know that's not possible. Perhaps it's an experience attached to a particular place, like church, or a retreat center, or somewhere in nature. Perhaps it's a feeling that arises from listening to music, reading a book, creating art, or spending time with a special person. Perhaps it's something else that sparks the recognition of the divine within us and all around us. Whatever the experience may be, it's a tender place where God meets us and we feel refreshed and restored. It feels good to be on the mountaintop. But none of us can stay on the mountaintop forever. And Jesus doesn't encourage us to do so. Jesus himself didn't stay there, and in fact never stays put in a particular spot for very long. Jesus moves from place to place and lives a life dedicated to sharing God's vision to the world and in the world. A world that honors, he's creating a vision for a world that honors and cares for all that God creates. A world which values kindness, love, and mercy. A world where all are included and the needs of all are met. Jesus seeks no less than a total transfiguration of this world from what it is into what it can be, which is the kingdom of God. We won't be able to transfigure our world to the kingdom of God very easily or very quickly. That takes time and patience and persistence. And God is with us in all of that work. But we can transfigure the places within our own sphere of influence right now. As an example, what would church community look like if all generations were represented? If power was shared across those generations? And if the needs of everyone were considered in every aspect of community life? Now that may sound nice, but it would be a big change. Because in order to do that, church community would first have to look at who holds the power and who doesn't. It would have to look at whose needs get met and whose needs don't get met. It would have to look at who is present in the community and who isn't present and ask why. None of these are comfortable areas to examine honestly within a church community because it's hard to explore generational representation, power sharing, and meeting the needs of the whole community without changing. And let's face it, change is hard, but it is also possible if a community commits to being community in a new way. Now, I use church community as an example because for many of us, it's the sacred space, both literally and figuratively, which we're reluctant to change. On its best days, it can be a collective mountaintop experience. And like Peter, we want it to stay exactly as it is. But what if, instead of holding on to a place or a moment that's just for us, we explore how to make that experience more accessible across generations? Is it possible to create a mountain that instead of being narrow and pointed is broad and expansive? And if we can do that, if we have the courage to do that, I wonder how it might change all of us. Because transfiguration changes everyone in ways we can't even imagine. To be and do what God calls all of us